Hey y'all, it's July 3rd and I feel like this has been a long morning already. I was going to wear my hair down and I blow dried it and I put it down and then immediately my head started to glisten because it's hot. It is hot. So for the morning pour this morning, the morning pour that's brought to you by Smakz, which is the food vendor that you will find tomorrow at the West Valley City 4th of July celebration out at Centennial Park. I keep pointing because from where I'm sitting, it's that way. Smakz is going to be there. They are the purveyor of the world's best funnel cakes. They're going to have esquite, they have aguas fresca, they have so many food options. But let me tell you about the funnel cakes. They are massive, they are delicious, they are shareable. You're not going to want to miss out. So catch them tomorrow at the West Valley City 4th of July celebration. Okay? Smakz, and tell them Pela sent you. Thank you. So here is what I was going to tell you about things being hot. My hair was down and I was going to try to leave it down. It's not a real thing. I can't even stand to do that. So I looked in the mirror and 2 seconds later, I was beaten up around here. I was beaten up under the eyes. My nose sweats. It's so fun. It's so fun to be glowing, but to be glowing with water running down your face. And I turned on the camera and I was like, oh, I'm just sweating. And what was it that they used to say? Nope, I'm not going to say any animal that sweats. Anyway, it's hot. I have been seeing people pass out left and right on different little videos. And it took me back to the summer of when I was 14, which was not so long ago. I was 14 not so long ago. Anyway, that was the year I did not have any family to go with me to do stuff. And I went on a pioneer trek. And the pioneer trek that happened when I was 14 versus pioneer treks of today, very, very, very different. The idea was, first of all, to imitate the life of a pioneer. And the group that I went with, the plan was to go on this trek for 5 days, dressed as a pioneer, wearing long, heavy skirts, bonnets, things of that nature, putting all of our stuff in hand carts, pushing it through the mountains for 5 days. And the goal, I believe, was to get about, I would say 20 miles. I might be wrong about that. I might be thinking it was way further than what it was. It felt like 20 miles after 5 days. It was roughly about 5 miles a day that we were trying to cover. I don't think I'm wrong about that. But on day one, here's what happened. My parents weren't available to volunteer to go. My siblings were too old and had already passed these programs, so they weren't available to go. So this is the first time I'm going solo on something, an activity like this. And I didn't realize when we all loaded up in the cars that I was supposed to fill up my water bottle, my canteen. So I didn't do that. And, you know, when you're just sitting in a car, that doesn't mean anything. But once we got started and we were walking in the hot sun, and by the way, my mom is an excellent seamstress. Excellent in a way that instead of just having like 2 straight pieces of fabric with some elastic at the top to be my skirt, she had rows of fabric and rows of fabric that she sewed together like this, so that if I was to spin around, my skirt would go full out, like almost like a tablecloth. So this skirt was heavy. And my dad is a military guy, so surely my hiking boots were combat boots. I was dressed in the heaviest clothing possible. We get up there and I don't have any water. And we start this trek and nobody noticed that I passed out 3 different times that day. The reason why I know I passed out is because I was shaken to say, hey, we got to keep going. We would stop to take a break. Everybody would drink water and I had none. And nobody noticed I didn't have water. And I didn't know, no is not the word. I didn't want to ask somebody else to give me some of their water because I wasn't wise enough to fill up mine before we left. I really felt like that was my responsibility and I messed it up, and so I just had to live with the consequences. If I had been a grown-up, any older than 14, I don't know that my body could have handled that decision that I had made. I was so dehydrated, and we had gone so far, and they kept telling us the water's over the ridge, the water's over the ridge. We did not get to water until late that night after we had set up tents. And that was the first time I was able to drink water that day. There's a lot of implications in that story, and some that made me cry. But the point is, it's hot. Stay hydrated. That is it. That is the point. And that's all I have to say. It's hot. Now, conversations with Pela, the bigger conversation that I'm ready to have today, I think. It's not anything major. It's not anything crazy, but it's brought to you by Utah Grown. That's utahgrown.co for the website, and Utah Grown, the business. You can find them at 730 South State Street, downtown in Salt Lake City. If you're interested in getting your medical cannabis card, get onto their website and find out if you have a qualifying medical condition. They have medical providers that show up on Tuesdays and every other Wednesday that can help you get your medical cannabis card. So if you're interested in finding out if this is a worthy part of your wellness program, again, check them out at utahgrown.co. Now, if you are a medical provider and you're trying to figure out how do you talk to your patients about this, how do you answer their questions, how do you participate in the medical cannabis program, Utah Grown is also a great resource. They have educational classes. They have a lot of information online, and they can help you understand as a healthcare provider how you can support your patients who choose to participate in the medical cannabis program. Keep in mind that only medical cannabis patients qualify to participate in the program. All right, conversation for today. There was an article in the New York Times, and I wrote down the title. It's called "We Were Once a Country of Coke versus Pepsi, Not Anymore." And the whole idea is about there's a difference between, or not really, not the whole idea and not a difference. They started to talk about it's not about Coke and Pepsi anymore. It's really the new war is Diet Coke versus Coke Zero. And it just talks about the things that the brands and the way that they speak to us. And I was thinking about this. I was thinking about why do certain things speak to us? I think it's because certain brands tell our stories, right? I think about Mac versus PC. If you were to ask me any day of the week, anytime, in my sleep, when I'm awake, whatever time, what I would prefer, I always say a Mac. I always say a Mac. And I'm well aware that there are plenty of PCs that are powerful and that run just fine. However, way back in the day, the first time I ever had to use Photoshop, I ran that app on a PC. It was a PC laptop, and that laptop could not handle running Photoshop. Now, it was very specific to the power of that laptop, but I had a sibling who was getting a degree in graphic design at the time, and I kept calling and it was like, why is this locking up everything? And my sibling said to me, because your computer is not strong enough to run the program. And that was the day that sibling and I made a pact that we would always use the equipment that was made for the job. And it turned out that the equipment at that time that was made for the job was a Mac. And from that day forward, I have used only Macs. Not because there's something wrong with PCs, but in my mind, a Mac is the equipment that is needed for the job that I choose to do, which is a lot of creative things are done with, well, it's actually done with the Adobe Creative Suite that is such a massive suite and one that is just industry standard, that the Mac was the only computer for a moment in my life that could run the entire suite. So now I don't switch. Don't give me a PC. I don't want it. I only want a Mac. But I identify with Mac users because they tend to be more on the creative side. That tends to be why they choose the Mac. And I find myself ready to argue, even though I don't own Apple, nor do I own any company that makes PCs. And I don't even have skin in the game like that. But I will argue that the MacBook is what I need versus anything else. I feel the same way about the iPhone. I feel the same way about Beyonce. And I love Beyonce. I don't love her music. Like, it's not, I don't listen to Beyonce that often, but I have always thought that she's been very genius with the way that she's handled her career. And I don't care if you like Beyonce or not. Have you been able to match her genius? That's always what I say. That is like my defensive line. So there's a million people in this world who don't like Beyonce. And there are a lot of people in this world who think, and by the way, I don't go around talking about Beyonce. There is no reason for me to speak about her all the time. But right now I'm talking about brands and how they speak to us. She was so successful, and she didn't follow not one rule that I was taught you had to follow in order to be successful. And the fact that she was so successful and she didn't follow any, and all of the rules that I'm talking about are like moral rules that people said, oh, for example, and I know that this is going to sound so stupid. If you wear a tank top, evil, you will not succeed. If your shorts are too short, evil, you will not succeed. If you do this, that, and the third, evil, you will not succeed. And, you know, like whenever that kind of moral argument comes up, because it comes up a lot of times, especially around people of faith, and it doesn't even matter what faith. It's just people who are very religious have a tendency, and I'm not talking about everybody. If it doesn't apply to you, let it slide. But there are a lot of people who believe that if they take the moral high ground, that is what makes them better. It's almost like, anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. It was just that those were the things that I heard over and over and over again growing up. And then, you know, you, as a teenager and a young adult, and you start to really think about these things, and you're like, okay, well then explain why drug dealers do so well, or why criminals do so well. And there's no moral rule that makes sense, because it's not based on morality. It's just based on principles of work ethic, which is, you know, when you have one mindset, the other mindset doesn't, it's hard for the two things to coexist. So Beyonce, to me, was the person who said, hey, something about the way you think is not going to yield the results that you think it's going to what did I say? It's not going to yield the results that you think it's going to yield. Being a moral person is a very good thing. I don't have a problem with that. Being a moral person does not lead to success. It's just two different things. And so that's why, and I'm not calling Beyonce immoral by any stretch. I'm just saying that she broke all the rules that were taught to me that would make me a bad person, and thus unable to be successful. So I always look at Beyonce and I say, okay, if she was able to do this and not do any of the things that I was taught, then maybe there's a flaw in my thinking somewhere. So I'll always argue for Beyonce. Here's the whole point of all of this. It's not that Macs are better. It's not that Beyonce is better. It's that there are things that call to us. Like there are brands, there are ideas that speak to us about who we are. There's a kid in my office, and by the way, I work in a corporate office when I'm not talking to you while you're getting ready. And in this corporate office, this kid came in wearing Carhartt. Now, there was a time that I didn't work in a corporate office, and I worked very blue collar jobs. Rocked the CDL for a decade, and driving those big trucks and driving big equipment and doing things like that. It did require you to have steel toe boots on every single day, to always have PPE gear, to always be ready to work and get dirty. I understood the point of Carhartt. That brand had very durable clothing. And when I started, that durable clothing was not fashionable. But then somehow other people began to identify with Carhartt. Like, I think skaters liked it. It kind of went into different areas. The clothing spoke to people for different reasons. And now I'm sitting in an office, in a corporate office, and one of the team members I have is wearing Carhartt. Let me tell you, we don't have calluses in that office. We're just typing all day. We don't do any hard labor that is not just, it's just typing and sitting and typing and talking to people and typing and talking to people, typing some more. There's no need for combat boots. There's no need for steel toes. There's no need for durable clothing. But here's this office child wearing Carhartt because somehow that brand is cool and the cool of it speaks to him. And so then that's the whole point. The whole point is that brands have a tendency to tell part of our story. And then once we feel like it tells part of our story, guess what we do? We defend it endlessly and grow the brand for those people. There's so many examples. I'm thinking, like, even today, I'll tell you one more story. This is the stupidest story of my life, and it just happened maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I went on this retreat, and it was a retreat for somebody who was running for office. So it was supposed to be like a brain bowl. We were all going to sit together. We were going to strategize and figure out how we were going to run this campaign. And prior to us going on the retreat, the campaign manager had messaged every single one of us. There was a group of women. There were 5 of us there. 6 of us, maybe 5 or 6 of us. That's it. And we were going to spend this weekend strategizing, and then we were going to relax together. And the campaign manager messaged us. She emailed us. She texted us everything she could. And she said, this is the plan. This is the agenda. But at the end of our planning session, make sure you bring a swimsuit because we're all going to get in the hot tub. And we're going to just chill out in the hot tub. And I didn't think anything of it because I've known these women for such a long time. I'm very comfortable with them. I just throw my swimsuit in the bag, throw my clothes in the bag, and we go up. And this is the weekend after Thanksgiving one year. So it's snowy, and we're out in Park City at an Airbnb, and we're doing our thing. And come the end of the night, when it's time to jump in the hot tub, everybody puts on their suits. And everybody has the cutest swimsuit I have ever seen. Everybody. Everybody is dolled up. Everybody has their cute earrings on. Everybody has the cutest swimsuits I have ever seen. And I looked in my bag and I brought my 10-year-old Costco swimsuit. My 10-year-old Costco swimsuit. You know why it was 10 years old? Because I didn't go swimming enough to wear that suit out. And there's nothing wrong with a Costco swimsuit. But a Costco swimsuit from 10 years ago doesn't look like the swimsuits that are out on the market today. And also, a Costco swimsuit from 10 years ago does not look like... It looks like I'm taking my kids to the pool 10 years ago. And I looked at everybody and I was like, I forgot my swimsuit. And everyone's like, oh, man, that sucks. And I was like, yeah, it sucks. I'm just going to chill out here inside while you guys go outside. And one of the ladies who I'm very, very close to, she said, man, I know you just don't want to get in. I get it. I hate swimming too. I hate not swimming. She said she hates hot tubs. And I was like, And she said, just come in. And honestly, I recognize I have issues because I said, I've got to figure this out because she's going out of her way to make me feel better, which means I'm making her feel worse by creating this uncomfortable situation. So I was like, man, I got to figure this out. And the bag that I had packed was actually just my gym bag. I didn't pack a suitcase because I had come home from my parents' house on the night of Thanksgiving. So it was a Thursday night I get home. And then all of this was early Friday morning. So this is like I didn't pack ahead of time. Let me throw stuff in my gym bag. So I rifled through my gym bag and I push my Costco swimsuit to the side and I look, and inside my bag is a gym outfit that just happens to be Lululemon. I don't have very many Lululemon items. There are other brands that I really, really like. But in that bag that day, I had a Lululemon top and Lululemon leggings. And here's what I know. Those leggings cost me probably close to about $120 because that's how much Lululemon cost when I bought those pants. I don't know if it's the same now. And the shirt was no less than $50. I know that. So in my mind, all of these women are in their cutest swimsuits, which it did not even occur to me. They probably bought it on Amazon or Shein for like 12 bucks, right? I'm just thinking they all look cute and they all look like money. And I got a 10-year-old Costco swimsuit and I'm not going to go out there and embarrass myself. So instead, the logic of my mind says, hey, put on your Lululemon gym outfit, which cost you an arm and a leg in the first place, and then go get in the hot tub. And I did. I surely did. I am really lucky that I have very graceful friends because not one of them was fazed by the fact that I did the weirdest thing, which was wear an entire gym outfit into the hot tub. And I was boiling to death in that hot tub. Even though we were out and it was snowing, I was just like sweating my guts out. And when everybody went inside, I stayed out there thinking about like, how did I get here? Why am I such a fool? But let me tell you something. The logic in my brain that Lululemon represented money was the only thing that took over in that moment that I knew I had to go out and be among people who looked like they had it together. Isn't that nuts? But that's how strong the branding of Lululemon really, really is. That is probably why I bought that outfit in the first place. Now, there's another brand that's kind of adjacent. And I'll be honest, I really like them better just because they fit well. And they're very similar. It's Athleta. I love Athleta. However, it's less about the price tag on Athleta and more about the comfort of the clothing and the durability of the clothing, which are the things that actually matter to me, is to always be comfortable and to always wear things that are durable because I know I'm going to work no matter where I go. But in that moment in the hot tub, it was to hopefully show up, which is sad now that I'm thinking through it. And every time I've told the story, it's been sad. But it was sad that is what I felt like I needed to do in order to be comfortable in that space. However, the point is not the sadness of the story, but that the branding was so strong that that was my excuse to wear a whole entire, like head to toe dressed in a hot tub. Now, I say all of that to say this. Have you thought about what it is that you do and what it means to the people who consume who you are? Do you know what I mean? Like if you're a business owner, if you're somebody who is trying to be an influencer, so on and so forth, what is it that you represent to your audience essentially? What is it that they're taking away from you? Not like focusing on your demographic, oh, all these people, certain age, certain gender, certain area. But what are you speaking to all of those people? Are you speaking to their freedom, to their personal identity? In what way? Because that is the way you continue to build your brand. You recognize what you represent to them, and then you represent that thing just a little bit harder. I talked longer than I meant to, so hopefully you're off to a great start. Hopefully you have the day off and you get to have fun today and tomorrow.